I don't know.
What's going on, Ron? How are you?
I'm so hungry right now. I should have gotten a snack. Oh. Outsiders on color and so forth, but I'll just get it.
How are you? Good, good. Hey, Mike. How are you? It's going. It's going. How are you? Good, good, good.
You?
They're here for you. You know that they're here for you. Yeah.
This guy, that's the color, you know. Holy crap. That is you, Sherry, right?
I am sure.
Yes, how are you?
Say what?
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Good, thank you. We hardly ever have a full house here.
I know what a budget will do, isn't it?
It's nice.
Folks, we're just going to give it another couple minutes to counsel it more.
Where are you?
Hey, Kelly. Kelly, can I move those chairs from behind you so that they can get some other people in to sit?
I don't need to.
This is kind of the
Nah, that's okay. I've had worse.
It might be cold, but do you want the window open behind it? For airflow or? Oh, it might be chilly, but.
I know.
You can open the window if you want.
Well, no, I let's say the street noise, right?
Yeah.
Probably makes it hard to hear.
That's another. I just know that fabulous lipstick.
You're the sergeant at arms, that's what I always say.
Ooh, it is hot. I'm burning. I am burning up. Leave it on. Turn that off.
Okay.
You got, there you go. Don't be shy.
45. Might go to- I got the pickle right from the. Two pieces of that.
No, it's not. No, okay. There we go. Thought I recognized it.
Somebody else can color it.
Nice.
He's gonna color it.
This time I'd like to call the October 7th, 2021 regular meeting of the Common Council of City of Plattsburgh order at 5:03 PM. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Carlin, will you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenquist.
Here.
Counselor Canales.
Here.
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Gibbs.
Here.
Counselor Sally.
Here.
Counselor Buck. Here. Counselor Moore.
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the September 16th, 2021 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll now entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented. Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts or concerns with the council on any topic. Please come to the podium to be acknowledged. When called upon, we ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record. In accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be giving 5 minutes to address the council. Would anybody like to come up? Yeah, please. Sorry, just to interject. The agenda that we released early didn't have the listing for the reading of the proclamation, which is on tonight's agenda, and it will be done after we do a couple of things here. And then the budget message is going to come later on after we do our regular business, if you will, but before we go into, we'll likely have an executive session, so before we go into executive session. Sorry, thank you.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Hi, Sherry Provost, resident of Underwood Avenue Mobile Home Park. I'm here asking for help, which we really need to kind of get our park back in order again. I've been a resident there for 36 years, and this is the worst that the park has looked. There's sewage problems going on and off. I've complained to building inspectors for buildings and trash and on licensed vehicles that's not supposed to be there. We have, what's the name you want to call them, when they're sleeping in their tents with no home, with pit bulls setting up behind trailers, which my dog was attacked by a pit bull 2 weeks ago, a squatter, call it. There's no light at all on Sandalwood Way on my corner. It's completely dark. Holes in the road is so bad that I fell the other night. I'm all bruised up from walking the dog just around my trailer. Our park manager, Bruce Eaton, seems to not care about anything but his premises and his end of the park. Now, our rent just increased to $427.45, and we hear it's going to go up to $450 come January 1st. And all I'm asking is to have a more clean, place to live, that you're not going to be afraid to walk your dog because there's always dogs running loose. And just to walk outside without falling in a hole. I mean, the yards are full of holes. There's wires, there's old meters still from the flood. Nothing has been done. And he doesn't seem to care. And I've tried to get help. I've gone through with some of the councilmen walking through the park. He would do a little bit, but now there's nothing. And it is an absolute embarrassment to say that I live down there. So any help to get this guy moving, to do what's supposed to be done, to improve this park, because like I said, I've 36 years and this has never, ever looked like it does now. And when I'm embarrassed to say I live on Underwood Avenue. So that's my main complaint.
Thank you.
is
Beth, can you grab Sherry's phone number? contact, and I'll reach out to the county and our folks here and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
And I know that we had some folks go out there to take a look and nothing's changed since then, and that's, we can figure something
I
out.
mean, we've got wire that he's buried with sand, live wire
Mhm.
that's covered with sand, manholes, rotor-rooters out there nonstop for sewage just coming out of the pipes. And it's a never-ending thing.
Sharon, could you write something down? Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Is there anyone else who'd like, yeah, please.
I live at 21 Castrini Way in the same park as she
Mhm.
does, and there's no lights down there. You can't see in the back next to the river. They let people just squander living on the empty lots there, and they don't do nothing. We tell them to make them move. They're not safe. We're not. I have a 10-pound Chihuahua, and all the dogs in there are all bigger than them, than him, and they won't let them stay in the yard alone. You have to be out there watching them, but nobody is out there watching their other dogs. Only we are out there watching our dog. Why is that? It should not be allowed. We can't put fences up to protect our dogs. We can't put flowers in our yard the way we want. We can't put sheds up in our yard, but it's okay for him to put up all he wants. It's just ridiculous. Nothing getting done. We have yards is uneven. My mom's in a wheelchair. She can't get out and he wants to go in and tear her yard up. And then if you give them, if we're at the end of the month, if we give him our next month's rent at the end of the month, he just considers that as the same month's rent. And then he tells you, well, you have to make another payment. Why? If we were telling you it was for a June payment and we give it to you at the end of May, why are we have to repay for it? So now I'm making my mom pay another month of rent. And she's disabled. She's living on probably $700 a month. And our rent's going up and up. For what? Not getting anywhere, nothing's getting done. It's actually getting worse. Even the roads are not even done right. You have roads all ripped up, potholes all over the place. You have, just like I said, everything's all over the place. Nothing's getting done. Something has to be, if not, I don't know what to do. Because he tells us we can't do it, but you go down to his area, he has it all. He has sheds, we can't put up.
Are you talking about the
toys,
manager, the park manager?
Yes,
Park
Bruce
manager?
Eaton, Bruce Eaton has it all. Yep, and he tells us we can't, but he can do it. Yep. Yeah, tells us no fencing, but he has fencing. He told us we can't put up swing sets, but he has swing sets in his yard for the kids, for his son to play on. We can't put sheds up, but he has sheds. He tells us we can't have any unlicensed vehicles in our yard. He has them all in his yard. Has an unlicensed boats and everything. Campers and stuff, but we can't have them. Why is that? That does not make sense. So something has to figure out what to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to share their thoughts with the council on any topic? Yes, please. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh,
Hi, I'm Steve Krieg, 8 Mason Drive. First, I have to say, I have a hard time figuring out what the parking meters are going to achieve. The council has stated that they won't take in any more money than to pay for their cost. And we already have regulated parking in town with enforcement, and I know it's enforced. So I get what we're getting out of it. We're paying a company, they're making money off it. But I don't see what the city's getting out of it. That's just I might be missing something. I admit that. But that's just to introduce that. What I've noticed and what I perceive lately is a lot of very big plans and big projects that are being rushed in and voted on quickly or at least rushed on. The next thing that I see is a a big project at the beach, which I'm not saying is a bad project. I'm just saying it seems like it's pretty speedy. We're getting it in and we're expected to vote on, or you're expected to vote on initial parts of it that eventually will cost multi-million dollars. So let's slow down is what I'm saying. Let's take it easy. Let's start with some improvements that we know we can do and slow down a little bit and take things a step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Ron Nolan, 47 Couch Street. Also past chairman of the board, zoning board of appeals, and still a present regular member, at least for a little while longer. I'm here obviously about the agenda item for P4, talking about parking minimums. And I understand that, as we know, this law, when looked at before by the county planning board, was denied, which calls for a supermajority, which means that 5 of you must pass it. I'm asking you again, and I think if you remember the last time I was here, in a relatively friendly comment, that we talked about this, and what I said was that it is too broad reaching, too all-encompassing, and the total elimination of all of the parking minimums in the city of Plattsburgh is not in the city's best interest in any way. And I think you're going to find that the county planning board feels that way. The city planning board already told you that they didn't like it. The city zoning board doesn't like it. When I was here last time, what I offered was to help you form a committee that would study this. And I agree that there are places where parking minimums need to be either eliminated or changed, but there are places that they absolutely should not be eliminated. As I told you, aside from anything else, single-family residences and residential neighborhoods are going to suffer greatly because everybody, and it's not going to be just my Couch Street, it's not going to be Montcalm, it's going to be Prospect and Olivetti and Tremblay and Cogan. Everybody that's got a single family house should be able to rent it despite whatever parking spaces they have to 4 college students at anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a semester each and rent their house for $32,000. So just that alone is reason to at least table or stop this law for now, form a commission with people who have experience with parking minimums, people who've dealt with them, and let us sit down and talk about what's good for development. Where can we eliminate them? Where can we help the city in its quest for good development at Harborside, other developers? And where can we make sure that we have quality development and still protect, which is what the zoning and planning boards do, the quality of life in Plattsburgh? And that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking, what is the rush? What is the big push to get this done now? Is there a huge project that is dependent on it? Is there something else that means that we have to do this tonight? Or can this be looked at? I have volunteered, and I'm still volunteering to help with this. I not to toot my horn, but I have 22 years of experience in parking minimums. 22 years of enforcing them, relaxing them, giving variances for them, and dealing with parking minimums in every kind of situation, from commercial to residential, multifamily, all kinds of situations. And it is not so simple and clear cut as to say, let's just get rid of them all. It's tantamount to saying, why are we bothering to have zoning rules? I mean, let's just trust everybody to, do what's best. We don't really need rules to tell them. And in a way, that's what this law is like and what it leads to. So I thought, frankly, that the law was, last time it was here, didn't have any support. You've got a law that was written by somebody who's no longer a counselor being pushed on this city. And Councilor Kelly has sent me many informative emails about why to abolish them. I didn't mind them at all. I thought it was very nice that he tried to help me understand that viewpoint. It didn't seem to coincide with my experience, but I appreciated his effort to educate me. I just think that this is being rushed. If in fact it gets voted on tonight, or at a minimum, it should be tabled. And I think frankly rewritten so that parts of that code can remain where they need to. And the parking minimums can be removed where they aren't needed. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to the council on any time?
I want to speak about the off-street parking requirement that you're trying to remove, but if I can just take 2 minutes outside of my 5 minutes to address like some citywide issues, if I may have permission.
It's
just
we're
quick.
flexible, but
Okay,
just,
I'll make
we've
it
got a
quick.
lot of people here, so
So-
we're gonna just be respectful, that's all.
Let's read,
Yep.
yeah. So we.
And sorry, Carol, we also have the letter that you submitted.
No, I
Okay,
understand.
so in that, all the counselors have.
I'm
that
not
here.
going to read,
Okay.
I'm not going to read that. So the first issue I wanted to mention was that I'm very thrilled about the way that the park has turned out downtown, very happy, except that our experience, city residents, councilors, city in general, is that when the city plants shrubs or trees or anything, if it's not on a water routine maintenance to be watered, they die, and then weeds come up. Perfect example, Pavone parking lot across the street. And we know Lake Champlain, the monument down on Cumberland Avenue, constantly battling with weeds. All I ask is that the city have it on part of, and I know the Public Works Department is overstaffed as it is. I don't know who would do it, but it's important to have it on a water routine along with weeding at the same time. Second issue, I spoke to Michael from Public Works, and the fence line on Route 9 Peru Street that I walk and bike on, the sidewalk is overgrown with weeds. Whoever did it last year did part of it, but it's now to the point that half of the sidewalk isn't even passable. I asked that Public Works do it and charge the owners respectively, if that's who's responsible. And then third is the retaining wall, and this is very expensive, so maybe you can use brickbat. I didn't want to mention using brickbat, but the retaining wall on the Point Champlain Monument Park, it's been, the shoreline has been eroding that wall and the steps for over 10, 15 years. I spoke to Kevin Farrington about this 15 years ago, and the city was going to try to put it in this budget. When New York State came through and they're doing the removal of waste along that shoreline, I thought that maybe we could reach out to New York State and have them help fund that. I've heard nothing. It still continues to erode. The steps are an integral part of the historical integrity of that monument. And it would be a shame to see what happened at the McDonough Monument of those steps just being boarded up and pretend like they don't exist. These are integrity in the historic preservation of that monument. So I asked the council to look at that and plan for that. Now, regarding the removal of the off-street parking requirements citywide, obviously you received my letter. I'm here because I found out from Beth that my letter would not be recorded into the minutes, probably for time's sake. But I want to make it clear that not only is, if you do this, would it be a travesty to the city citywide, but I live on Couch Street. I've been a resident at the city of Plattsburgh for over 60 years. I lived in Montreal for 7 years. And I can tell you that the majority of houses on Colgan throughout the city were built without the forethought of having enough parking off street, meaning that there isn't even sufficient parking off street now to accommodate the growth of the families that exist. Not to mention that many landlords are buying up single-family duplex, multifamily homes and overpopulating them with student housing. Now, as a former co-chair of the Landlord Tenant Committee, that this council and the former mayor wanted to create the rental registry to try to reduce overcrowding throughout the city and keep a handle on over density and to reduce and improve the quality of life throughout the city. It's in opposition of what that goal and mission of that portion of the building code and zoning code created. It makes no sense to do this citywide. I agree with Mr. Nolan that you have advice from the former city engineer, Kevin Farrington, who is now on the planning board for the county, and Marissa Gilbert, who was former chairperson of the planning board and planning board members, that this would be a travesty to the city of Plattsburgh. This is not to benefit the city residents or tenants of Plattsburgh. This is to benefit large developers and landlords. The only people that will benefit from this is landlords who want to buy single-family home or duplexes or even multifamily that have been neglected and overpopulate them, because we do not have sufficient parking in Plattsburgh. This is a house next door to me at 19, 21, and 23 Couch. There is parking sufficient for one car legally, two maybe. They've been grandfathered in to allow multifamily housing. Now, a landlord who does rent to student housing has bought 4 Couch, 6 Couch. There is 19 Couch, 14, 16 Couch, 21, and 23. Over 50% just on the lower end of Couch just in this past year has gone to a landlord that is definitely going to try to overpopulate. The only thing that has prevented him or will prevent him is the parking requirements required citywide. And that is because you're not permitted to rent to more than the number of non-blood tenants that parking can provide off-street. Now, if you want to increase noise, you want to increase traffic, you want to increase trash, and you want to ruin the quality of life for not only homeowners, but tenants throughout the city, go ahead and pass this law, because this law will definitely ruin the quality of life. I've been to Lake Placid, I've been to Vermont, I've been to other places, and you know the one gem that they all wish they had was sufficient parking. The one thing that prevents a city from developing in a conscientious and profitable way for the city long-term is to have a balance between the residents in the city, people that want to develop the city, and people that visit the city. If we don't have sufficient parking, you're not going to attract anybody to live in the city. One thing that I found when I've gone to Lake Placid and talked to the mayor himself is that he wishes that they had more parking requirements that would have had a more conscientious way to develop that city. It has grown exponentially in the last 5-10 years. That you've seen hotels all over the place, to homes that have been converted to tenants and short-term rentals, and there's not sufficient parking. In fact, now what's happening, they're parking in homeowners' lots because they don't have sufficient parking. If you look at the city and you drive around, take a drive, you're going to see that people that are conscientious homeowners are parking on their own front lawns because they don't even have enough parking. So if you put this into place, it's just going to exacerbate our already shortage. If you look at the Bavone parking lot and the city parking lot, because Prime has not been built yet, you'll see that it's mostly full all the time. What's going to happen during snow removal? I lived in Montreal. Where are the cars that park in the street? All the students that I live around that can't find parking, they park in the street. Where are they going to go if there's no off-street parking? So I ask you to not think about the developers, to think about the city. Yes, we want to develop. I'm a landlord. I would love nothing more than to see the downtown revitalized, but you're not going to revitalize the downtown by removing parking requirements, because I'll tell you the truth, I walk and bike everywhere, and you have to have a car. Everybody has a car. You have to provide for that. So I ask you to think about this, and I will leave on this note. I'm going to leave you with pictures, but this is the historic home that was just sold this past year to a homeowner from North Carolina, I believe, the old Francesca house. I don't know if anybody knows this, the Hartnett house. I want you to imagine that being sold to a landlord that wants to reap the return to his highest investment possible and rent, I don't know how many bedrooms, maybe there's 4. But now where are they going to have the cars to go there? Thankfully, somebody conscientious bought it and wants to live there. But as soon as this law is passed, homes like this are going to be sold to landlords that are going to reap the return at our detriment. You need to protect us. We elected you as public officials to serve us, to protect Plattsburgh, not to put money in the pockets of the developers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Earl. Anyone else who'd like to share their thoughts with the council on any topic? We will now go on to committee reports. Each standing committee is chaired by a counselor, and I'll call on that counselor of each committee, starting with city operations. Counselor Canales.
Yes, we will not be having our city operations meeting this coming Tuesday. There's no new resolutions or anything for the agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, so no meeting?
No.
Finance and economic development, our meeting is scheduled for the 16th, I believe,
Thank you, Sharon.
of this month. 16th, okay. Thanks, folks. City infrastructure, Council Moore.
Not much to report. Paving for this year is pretty much done. And we had our meeting this past Monday and discussed a number of things. I appreciate everybody that came and hope more people come and hear what we have on the agenda.
Thank you. Public safety, Councilor Gibbs.
So our September public safety meeting was canceled. And so I don't have anything to update since August. And I see that there is a pretty significant budget request from the fire department that I was not aware of. I saw it on the agenda. So I look forward to hearing more from Chief Lawless regarding this, but I have no other updates other than that.
We'll now move on to liaison reports. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Bob. Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Kelly. I know Councilor Kelly was on vacation this week, but if you'd like to update anything that you.
The update, just want to thank you, Mayor, for conducting the meeting.
It went well.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Snell, do we have any staff member reports?
No reports, so just to give a heads up, I do anticipate the use for a
And there are no special committee reports. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the payrolls of various city departments for the weeks ending October 6, 2021 in the amount of $476,196.06. Councilor Bob, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yep.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending October 8th, 2021 in the amount of $412,207.11. Motion by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yeah.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried. At this time, I'd now like to make a proclamation serving to recognize and adopt the city of Plattsburgh's true native name, Giacenta, and a proclamation, the same proclamation serving to dedicate the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and to celebrate and honor Indigenous people and their shared heritage and culture. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas. And whereas currently over 50 municipalities and 10 states celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday of October. And whereas Columbus Day is a federal holiday established in order of President Roosevelt in 1937 and is officially recognized by some cities and states around the country on the second Monday of October. And whereas Columbus Day serves to celebrate the colonialization of North America and genocide of our native peoples by Europeans. And whereas prior to colonization, Indigenous peoples lived and flourished in the Americas for tens of thousands of years. And whereas the European colonization of North America led to the suppression, forced assimilation, and genocide of Indigenous peoples and their cultures. And whereas the city of Plattsburgh recognizes and values the vast contributions made to the United States by Indigenous peoples' knowledge, science, philosophy, art, and culture. And whereas it is the responsibility of the city of Plattsburgh to foster inclusivity, racial equity, and justice for all people and oppose systematic practices that perpetuate oppression. Now, therefore, I, Christopher Rosenquist, Mayor of the City of Plattsburgh, do hereby proclaim that the second Monday in October be designated as Indigenous Peoples Day, and that the City of Plattsburgh is forever recognized by its native name, Giacenta, and honors and recognizes the unique contributions of Indigenous peoples have made to the United States of America and to our community, and encourages the people of the city of Plattsburgh to observe Indigenous Peoples' Day and appropriate ceremonies and activities that celebrate and promote awareness of Indigenous peoples and their shared history and culture. And we support the official designation of Indigenous Peoples' Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the city of Plattsburgh to be affixed.
Hey, we applaud.
And really honestly, to acknowledge our community members who are really who we are really representing as well. Councilor Kelly, who brought forward a large portion of this conversation, Councilor Gibbs, who also brought forward a lot of this conversation as well. I think we all in this council recognize the need to acknowledge inclusivity and to continue to expand that practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yep, thank you. Before voting on the following resolution, thanks for coming, folks. Before voting on the following resolutions, I will note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committees and department heads. We're now taking action on these items in large part due to the recommendations of those committees. Ms. Carlin, will you please will you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Item 7.238, adoption of local law P-4 of 2021, a local law amending chapter 360 zoning of the city code of the city of Plattsburgh by amending and restating section 360-26A off-street parking requirements in its entirety, as well as amending any other code reference thereto. Whereas a public hearing was held on said local law on Thursday, July 1st, 2021 at 5 p.m. in the council chambers, 41 City Hall Place, Plattsburgh, New York, 12901, and whereas the proposed local law was referred to the Clinton County Planning Board on July 1st, 2021, which County Planning Board issued a disapproval of the proposed local law by decision dated August 5th, 2021, and whereas the Common Council completed a secret review of this proposed local law and adopted a negative declaration pursuant to secret on September 16th, 2021, this local law shall take effect immediately upon approval by the mayor and filing with the New York State Secretary of State. The entire text of which has been distributed to and read by the members of the Common Council is hereby enacted without the reading thereof, and a copy of said local law is made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, we've had an extensive amount of discussion about this and a tremendous amount of public interest, which I'm very grateful for. And I value the feedback of the people who have written us, emailed us, come to talk to us. We have been researching among council. We have shared that widely. A number of us have shared those articles with each other. You've shared them with Mr. Nolan as well, it appears. I have worked very hard to find any data at all that says moving towards eliminating parking minimums. This doesn't eliminate off-street parking. So I want to make sure that this isn't a conflated set of issues. This puts parking requirements in the hands of a developer if they choose to develop here and make the decision about what best fits their project. We've had projects fail in the past because parking minimums basically got in the way of their ability to create good development. So I've worked very hard to try and find something that would indicate that this is a bad move. I cannot find any current data or research that says this is going to be bad for the city. Everything that I have found in various venues of information all say the same thing, that this is development of the future to eliminate minimum parking requirements and all the benefits that it actually provides to cities, encouraging fewer vehicles, more walkability, more accessibility. It creates the ability to create more space for development, not reliant on parking minimums. So I realize that it has come through the various boards, but haven't received any data or fact-based research from these boards that tell us that this is a wrong move for us. And so I thought that the public should know that. We have done our research, we've done our due diligence, we've worked very hard to share information within council. And I cannot find anything that would be based on factual data that says that this is actually wrong for the city. So I thought I would share that with the council.
So I just wanted to add that coming on to the council in the middle of this, I've been doing a ton of research myself, and my background is in research. And I am obsessed with evidence-based to the point where even if I have a personal belief in something, which has often happened to me in my career, if I have a personal belief or assumption about something, if I encounter the evidence that shows me otherwise, I have to go with the evidence. And in this case, and I hear the concerns that have been shared by the public, everything indicates the opposite of what we have heard. This is a move for sustainable cities. This is a move that creates green spaces. The data exists. And I even read a really interesting article in my hunt to find the research that would support the opposite point. I came across a really interesting article that was about a city that had come up, that had originally proposed a citywide move, the same as us. Ultimately, they did end up compromising and doing the downtown area only. And that has turned out to be a major detriment. Every city that has put this in a way that has been functional and eliminated these parking minimums has had success. And it doesn't prevent the zoning board. Every developer that comes in here still has to consult with the planning boards and zoning boards. So there is still the opportunity to advocate for parking in those situations. So far, this is just not what the actual evidence suggests. I tried to start a dialogue about this in street teams. Nobody responded with anything. I've been trying to talk about it for weeks. Anecdotal evidence is not enough. And the anecdotal evidence, even from other cities, isn't bearing out. And I also just want to say, my own experience in other cities doesn't bear this out. You know, I come from a city with a dense population and what you guys might consider parking problems. And none of the concerns that have been expressed here, while I do understand why they would be concerns, have I seen play out in any of these areas that I've lived and visited. So this is where I come from on it.
Yeah, and Saranac Lake has eliminated their parking minimums. So.
Any further discussion?
Well, I just like to say that I did send numerous articles to Mr. Nolan. Hope I didn't burn your inbox too much there, Mr. Nolan. But I hope you would look at those and say, yes, this is a good move for the city of Plattsburgh. We often make the mistake of saying, well, Plattsburgh is different. Plattsburgh is different from other cities. And really what we should be saying is, how are we the same as other cities? And where do other cities have successes? And where can Plattsburgh capitalize on those successes as well? And I do believe, and from the data that I have read, I do believe now that supporting the elimination of parking minimums is the way to go. Anecdotal information we've been given, Montreal, for example. Montreal is in the process of eliminating parking minimums. So it's happening all over the world. It's a very much 21st century approach to transportation and moving people around and realizing that cars, as Councilor Bob said, cars are no longer sustainable or won't be in the very near future. So that we must find other ways to use our valuable property in the city for things besides parking. People are so much more important than parking, and housing is so much more important than parking. So these are things that we have to deal with going forward, and this is a very big step in the right direction, I believe. It's a very 21st century thing to do. Establishing parking minimums was something that was very 20th century when the car was in its heyday. And all you have to do is go up to the town of Plattsburgh, visit the mall, and see what parking minimums do to communities, or visit Lowe's, or visit Price Chopper, any of those sort of big box stores, they all have massive amounts of parking. It's just amazing how much land is devoted to parking. And I hope we can get away from that by voting yes for this local law tonight. Thank you.
Yes, please, Counselor Talent.
The only bit of input I want to bring in, just no matter which way this vote goes, let us get the conversation started with making public transportation better. That's what I think we can all agree with.
And I do just want to add, like, I was on, the fence about this, literally coming in here tonight. I spoke to her on the phone. I've listened, I read the emails. I've been weighing all of that with the public's desires, but, just want to kind of throw that out there. I've been listening. I came in here tonight ready to have my mind changed from the research I've had, but the things that came up just didn't do that.
Any further discussion? Sorry, Carol, Ms. Klepper, please let the council do their business and then we'll move on, okay?
Yeah, but once they remove it citywide, there is no going back.
Ms. Klepper, please, okay, just please respect the rules of the order here on the chamber. Like, thank you.
I personally believe that we should have collaborated a little bit more with the zoning board plan of appeals as well as Ms. McMahon's office. And having seen that this whole entire process was predominantly done in a vacuum, void of any true outside collaboration. I would personally like to see this done better. I'm not against it, but it needs to be done better. So I'm hopeful, just as Councilor Talon is, to work on this in the future with all collaborative efforts associated with it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Council Canales?
No.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
No.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Three yeses and two noes. I'm sorry, 4 yeses.
4 yes, 4 no, it does require a majority. based
The
on-
measure does fail. It needs a 4+1 based on county planning board denial. Measure does not carry.
Item 7.239, authorized tabling fee for 2021 Trinity Park Spooky Street event.
Motion by Councilor Talon, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.240, authorized budget adjustment, general fund, municipal buildings, contract services and utilities.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second. Councilor Bop, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.241, extension of multimodal agreement.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second. Councilor Bop, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.242, approved travel request police department.
Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Bop, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.243, authorized budget transfer, general fund, under budgeted accounts, police.
Motion, Councilor Gibbs, second. Councilor Canales, discussion.
Yes. Can we get explanation of this?
Sure. Per the 2021 budget, there have been some underfunded accounts or expenditures past what was estimated. Those accounts are in deficit. This resolution moves overages in other accounts into those underfunded accounts to balance out the PD budget. There is no impact to the general fund.
And is this to fund the overtime? Or,
It looks like it's fund overtime, separation pay, other vehicle equipment, police motor vehicle repairs, police technical special equipment, police training, education, police water, police fees for service. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.244, authorized budget transfer, general fund under budget accounts fire.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Bop. Discussion.
Yes, can I get an explanation on this one as well?
Similar situation. There have been a number of underfunded or overspent accounts in the fire department. This is a little bit of a more of a I don't really have another word other than concern. There's a $461,000 transfer out of the general fund to fill some of the deficit in that department. It does cover overtime, separation pay, temp pay, fees for service, material supplies, contract services, water, repairs to equipment, vehicle parts, and Brent Gappy. So that's the motion, or that's the item on the table right now.
So when we met in July with Chief Lawless,
Mhm.
and we discussed the fact that as of July, the overtime was used out of the budget. You know, we had a very robust discussion about there was enough money in the 1100 line because of retirements to take care of remaining overtime for the year. So I'm not unclear about what happened. So there were so many retirements that the 1100 line was pretty healthy, and that unbudgeted overtime was going to be taken from the 1100 line. That was the last conversation we had about it. So can you tell us what has changed?
We removed 75,000 out of the 1100 account.
You gotta come to the mic. Scott. Sorry.
We have moved money out of the 1100 account. The projection for the overtime was one that Richard had done through projections. We're just moving money as we can. Going through it, we may have some extra at the end in the 1100 account, but going through our projections, we wanted to make sure that we had enough if it tracked the same way that it has been tracking. I'm personally hoping that the overtime goes down. We just qualified 5 drivers, which will help us with an overtime situation that we encountered. As you're aware, we had 17 drivers as of January, and I lost 9. So to get qualified people, we had to pay the overtime. We're hopefully trying to get out of that hole right now, get everybody where they needed to be.
So we're pulling around 460,000 out of
$461,600.
out of the general fund.
That's accurate. Unassigned unappropriated fund balance.
So I would, I asked for this at the beginning of the year, a strategic operations plan to get the expenses under control. So before our next public safety meeting, which will be in about 2 weeks, can you have that for us?
Yes.
An operations plan of income from the ambulance, categorized overtime report of where the overtime is going, operations, and what your plan is on how to use your existing staff to get the expenses under control. Can you have that for us in 2 weeks?
I can.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
You know, I just had one comment. You know, it seems like every year the fire department seems to be always over budget. I don't know if we're not budgeting enough or what's causing this to happen, but it seems like every year we're coming up short in the fire department. We're over on overtime, and are we guessing wrong, or is there, you know, some issue? This is substantially different than what I would expect from our budgeting in the past. I just want to make sure that we account for all these things, so we're not sitting here next year doing the same thing. Oh, I have a question.
Oh, fair enough. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
I know that Councilor Gibbs has worked on the overtime issue in the fire department for a couple of years now, maybe more. And I would hope we'd have more progress by now. And I understand the issues, but I do wonder why we can't get this under control. It seems as though, you know, other departments are able to work without as much overtime, and That's a very large sum of money to move from the fund balance to the fire department. That's about a 4% tax increase to cover that. So we're asking our taxpayers to fund something here that they shouldn't have to fund. And I hope your efforts will work eventually, Councilor Gibbs. Please keep trying. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
No.
Council Gibbs?
No.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
No,
3 yeses, 2 nos.
I'll move it. Yes.
Mayor, you may approve it. Item 7.245, authorize capital reserve fund establishment rec complex fund.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bob, discussion.
As I understand it, this is the $148,000
Yes.
proceeds of selling the chapel building.
Correct. So this resolution 725, 7245 and 7246 coincide with each other. This is an establishment of a reserve fund, a capital reserve fund for recreation complex. As a mechanism of a reserve fund, any monies you put into it needs to be expended for that specific reason. So for this reason, it is capital improvements for recreation complex. The previous discussions, as Councilor Kelly has indicated, there's $148,000-ish sale of proceeds of the chaplain's house. As indicated by the council, they would like to have that funds reinvested into the multiple facilities that we do have in recreation complex, specifically the gym. So this establishes that reserve fund that will then be funded in the next resolution, ideally with that $148,000 proceed. Any further discussion?
Does
Sorry.
the rec complex fund include parks?
Uh,
Can that be used to improve park building?
it-
Repair park building?
No, that parks and park beautification are kind of split between DPW's general fund and the community development office. Recreation complex specifically only deals with the beach, the marina, the gym, crate center, and that's it. Those four things. Okay.
I'm really glad those funds are there. Last year I advocated for that.
Yep.
And I would also advocate for establishment of a fund just for the parks facilities.
There.
Fund of a similar nature. How we want to fund that, I guess, remains to be seen.
Yep. Fair enough. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.246, authorize budget adjustment, rec complex fund estimated revenues and capital reserve transfer.
Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Kelly, discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.247, authorize right of entry property license agreement, Harbor Review.
Motion by Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Bop, discussion.
Yes. Can we get an overview of what this is?
Yeah, similar to other entry agreements with other private agencies or private entities, we have, this is an agreement to allow the folks at Harborview to come onto city property to do some site remediation, if you will, cut down large shrubs for their view shed. And we've done this, we've had similar agreements with other waterfront owned properties as well. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.248, authorize evaluation of Green Street.
Motion. Counselor Canales, second. Second. Anybody? Counselor Talon, discussion.
I'm not inclined to vote for this. We just authorized almost $500,000 come out of the general fund. We've spent about 700,000 unappropriated fund balance already. We have yet to spend more. As we already know, we discussed this at our last Finance and Community Development meeting. I think that something of this nature could be done by the employees that we have already. We have very, very talented city managers that I'm sure could do this, but I don't see how we can continue to spend unappropriated fund balance on anything from here to the end of the year.
Sure, this funding is also already funded through capital project H8130.464.
I understand, but we're gonna pay for it eventually, and
Sure.
I just,
Yeah, furthermore, in a conversation that we had with council earlier this year, we put a pause on doing work on Green Street in favor of this specific type of study. The Harborside Master Plan is being done actively right now. This is work that is recommended to be included in that book of work. And again, this is something that the council had already requested earlier this year.
And the funding for this would not affect.
I know, one way or another, we're gonna pay for it. So,
I just have a quick question as to, is there a time sensitivity into this?
I'll let John speak to it, other than we do have the Harborside Master Plan being actively developed right now.
Green Street's been an ongoing problem for 20 some years. And from the sewer fund perspective, we run chemical tankers, employee vehicles, contractors, hauled waste vehicles in and out of that basically alleyway nonstop. There's about $1 million a year in revenue that gets hauled in with all the tankers that come in. And that street is just not wide enough to support that kind of traffic. It's pretty amazing there hasn't been a catastrophic accident to date. I was just going in there yesterday. I started making a left through the intersection. I had to stop in the middle of the intersection because there was a truck coming out and there was just no room for that truck to go. But he couldn't go into the intersection, so he sat there and gridlocked it. So in addition to the efficiencies in public safety for pedestrians and people who are using the waterfront, I've got a huge financial concern, which is this $1 million a year in revenue that's coming in there. If there is an accident, then that whole program could get shut down. And that would be catastrophic financially, so.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just thanking you for explaining.
Oh, okay. I have a question. How does this qualify as a capital project? It's a study and it's going to recommend a solution, which is nice, but it doesn't result in any sort of building. So I wonder, how does this qualify as a capital project? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, generally, studies and design work that are to support the future construction of a capital improvement are included in part of the capital project.
Okay,
And they can't be part of capitalized costs.
they can be.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't really see a whole lot of realistic solutions here. I don't know if we're just throwing some good money after bad. It's framed by two buildings that are pretty permanent, brick structures. I mean, we can come up with some ideal situations, but what are we really going to do? We're going to try to tear down some buildings, buy one of those buildings? I don't know. I just don't see where there's any realistic outcome here that would be useful for the city. Just my opinion.
Just state that two of the alternatives that will be evaluated will be either purchasing one of the buildings that could be used to widen it or part of another building.
It'd be hugely expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
thank you, John.
sure.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
No,
Counselor Gibbs?
No,
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bach?
No.
Counselor Moore?
No.
Failed.
7.249, authorize HydroSource Associates hydrogeologic consulting agreement.
Motion, Counselor Canales, second by Counselor Kelly, discussion. Yep.
Do we bring John back up?
Sure.
Explain to us what this is. Sure. He knows better than anyone, I think.
Okay, so as most of you are probably aware, we're trying to develop a well field out around Mead Dam to ensure our long-term supply of water. We awarded the construction contract for the installation of a production well that's going to be done in the next month or so. This contract is for the consulting services that will go along with the development of that well, both technically with the hydrogeology and with the testing of the aquifer and with the, reporting and application that's needed to make to the state in order to get the legal authorization to ultimately withdraw the water from the ground.
My understanding, all this has to be done before we can begin to use the well.
Correct.
That would be the state, was it DEC or?
This application would go to the DEC for the water supply application, yes.
So all of the work, paperwork, so to speak, that has to be done to make that well operational is done in this.
Correct.
in this consulting engagement.
Correct.
Okay.
And there is other work being done in here also, but that's what this ultimately will result in.
Well, I'd just like to make one comment here. Typically, when you go to a groundwater sourcing for water, you find you have to do multiple wells. Some will work, some will not. I'm hoping to heck that, all our wells don't end up to be this expensive. Like, this is not going to be the end of the story. This one may not pan out. You may have to dig 4 more wells, 5 more wells, 6 more wells, maybe even more before you come up with a good source of water. So, well, I agree that we have to do these things. If we have to build, drill 6 wells, I hope that they don't all cost this much or we would go broke. It's good. Typically, I'm going to say you're going to need at least 6 wells before you come up with a good source.
Okay, one thing to understand and put it into context is that right now our main source of water is Mead Dam and Mead Reservoir. That dam doesn't meet present DEC safety requirements. So we're looking at $12 to $15 million to do the improvements that would be needed to keep that as a source of water. So this well, and if we decide to replace that reservoir in its entirety and want to keep the same total volume of water supply portfolio, is probably going to require maybe 3 or 4 wells, depending on what the yields are. At $1 million a pop, $4 or $5 million, that's substantially less than 12 to 15. And something else to consider is as we make capital improvements in the water system that's outside the city, we pay taxes on that to school districts, to the county, to the towns that they reside in. We're presently paying over $300,000 in taxes on our water infrastructure that's outside the city. And the reason it's not substantially more is because it's an old water system and its value is depreciated to about 20% of what the state thinks it's really worth. So we're paying really low taxes. As we add infrastructure, say a new dam, if we spent $12 or $15 million, we're going to be paying taxes on a $15 million infrastructure investment. And at 3.5%, that's, I don't know, $500,000 a year in additional taxes. So these wells, we're hoping to get the yields that you're concerned about, obviously. But from a upfront capital investment perspective, seems to be a lot less expensive than fixing the dam, resulting in significantly less taxes. And there's other operational efficiencies and benefits. So groundwater is typically steadier quality than surface waters are. It doesn't need as much treatment, things like that. So I share your concerns. I hope it's not 5 or 6 wells that we need. We're not going to know. This is step 1 towards making the problem better and getting us out from underneath this potentially huge investment in Mead Dam. So
Yeah,
Keep-
no one was
keep up.
suggesting we go back to repair the dam.
Okay,
That's
all right,
that's not an option.
yeah, so,
Thank you, John.
you're welcome.
Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
Yes,
Carried.
Item 7.250, authorized sewer system analysis.
Motion. Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. He's up here.
Well, I don't.
Act two, John.
Okay, so this is a proposal for an engineering evaluation of some of the city's sewers. We have a sewer a wastewater service agreement with the town of Plattsburgh. They sent us a lot of their wastewater through, I think, 8 different entry points coming into the city. We get between $700,000 and $800,000 a year in revenue from those discharges. As they develop further out in the town, more wastewater flow is going to come into the city, and we're going to get more revenue for that. But we need to make sure that these sewers that are coming in can effectively transport that wastewater that's discharged. And there's already some problem areas that we're concerned about. So this study is going to analyze, okay, what's the hydraulic capacity, the ability of each one of these entry points to carry the sewer flow into the city. It's going to look at how much of that capacity is presently being used and is not available for future growth. And it's also, maybe even more importantly, going to take a look at how the flows that are coming in that they're going to measure during this study compared to the billing flows that are being used to determine what the revenue is. There's some areas that there's right now just not good ways to measure the flow that's coming in, and this will help set the baseline for making sure that that flow measurement is accurate so that we're getting the revenue that we should be getting.
It's coming out of the sewer fund.
Yes, it is.
And last time I looked, the sewer fund very healthy.
Yeah, sewer fund's got a positive cash flow and a fair amount of cash on hand for capital projects and things like this. So, but you know, from a value perspective, from my perspective of the value, this is money well spent because we're relying quite heavily on this type of data to confirm the existing revenue that we're getting, which maybe should be more. And to ensure that we can get additional revenue by providing additional wastewater service. Well,
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob? Yes. Council Moore?
yes,
Item 7.251, approval of PMLP healing operating instructions.
Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call. Oh, did you have something?
I do.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yep. Say something, and that is that we had at our previous PMLD meeting, this was on the agenda, and the board of directors didn't really want to do it, so it suggested at that point that we could create these operating instructions and place them in a file somewhere. That does not mean that we're about to enter into any agreement with any utility to use our network.
Exactly.
Electricity, okay.
Proper, and that's exactly what this is. This is just an instructional guideline for things to consider if the city is approached to wheel power.
Now, I wasn't at the last meeting, but Mr. Tracy completed this task, and that document is ready to place in a file somewhere in his office. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you.
the update.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
yes,
Carried.
Item 7.252, authorizing MLB to award bids.
Motion, Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. Roll call.
Council Canales?
Yes.
Council Kelly?
Yes.
Council Gibbs?
Yes.
Council Talon?
Yes.
Council Bob?
Yes.
Council Moore?
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.253, authorizing MLB to advertise for bids.
Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Talon,
Yes.
Counselor Bob,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.254, authorizing MLB to write off unpaid final bills as required by the New York Department of Public Service Regulations.
Motion by Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Gibbs. Discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Canales,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Talon,
Yes.
Counselor Bob,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Carried.
Item 7.255, authorizing joint public hearing notice, Town of Plattsburgh regarding annexation.
Motion. Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales. Discussion. We're looking at what, the 21st for the public hearing, correct? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales,
Yes.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Talon.
Yes.
Counselor Bob,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Carried. At this time, I'd like to introduce local law P6 of 2021, local law officially annexing a certain parcel of property located in Reeves Lane in the town of Plattsburgh and identified on the 2021 tax map number 220.4-32 and 220.4-31.2. This will be placed when 2 weeks from now as well, October 21st at 5 PM. What? It's October.
Oh, jeez, that's right.
October 21st. I was like, 5:15 PM, October 21st, 5:15 PM. I'd like to also introduce local law P7 of 2021, a local law officially annexing a certain parcel of property located on Sharon Avenue in the town of Plattsburgh and identified on the 2021 tax map as number 233.7-1-14. This is also going to be held on the October 21st. At what time?
5:16.
5:16 at 5:16 PM, October 21st. Thank you. I know I'm going to move some things around on this agenda. Is there any new business to come before this council? Seeing none, I am now going to, before we go into executive session, I'd like to read and introduce the 2022 mayor's proposed budget. With that, I do have a unfortunately lengthy budget message, which I'd like to now read for the council. The 2022 mayor's budget process began in the beginning of August. This process started off with each department head, where each department head was provided a worksheet that included a 5-year budget look back. An average of those 5 years, the 2021 revised budget, and a blank column submitted to submit their 2022 requested budgets. Essentially, this budget process began as a zero-based budget process with supporting data that outlined historical trends of departmental expenses and revenues. To ensure council and community involvement, as well as the increased visibility into this process, developing this year's mayor's budget, I invited individual council members to meet with specific department heads, Chamberlain, Marks, and myself to review these departmental budget requests line by line. Subsequent to those meetings, I again reviewed each department's request and made adjustments where I felt necessary based on the 2022 project plans, projected revenues, councilor feedback, and the overall cost of doing business. Any changes made following this review were then confirmed with department heads to ensure that they were involved and could also provide feedback or guidance on those changes. In cases where any major adjustments were made to the budget request, my suggested adjustments were redistributed to both the department head and the assigned counselor for confirmation and further discussion. Following these internal meetings and adjustments, a series of public budget work sessions were held. Were held ahead of presenting this proposed budget. During these work sessions, each department head shared their budget request with the entire common council and provided again a line-by-line review of their requests. This allowed for the council to ask clarifying questions and to further help shape this budget process. My request to the council was to provide further recommendations or express additional concerns that could be then contemplated and included ahead of this budget proposal. This process, in my mind, was productive, informative, and provided valuable insight into the desire of the management team to maintain their ability to deliver valued services, as well as the council's goals to maintain fiscal stability. This budget takes into account all of those considerations and meetings. There were many factors that went into developing this budget. Impact from a global pandemic, inflationary indicators that we've seen mark our economy over the last year, local increases of COVID cases and other economic factors such as increased sales tax and increased property tax assessments. Employing the use of technology to more effectively deliver services, coordinated interdepartmental efforts for large-scale infrastructure improvements, and re-engaging community partners were also considerations for developing this budget. Watching indicators from state and federal governments, we anticipate increased infrastructure investments in roads, sewer, water, broadband in 2022 and 2023. Partnering with our grant rating agency, the city of Plattsburgh's opportunity to expand our economic development reach is only as successful as the plans that we develop and intend to pursue. Major infrastructure projects such as the redevelopment of our downtown and uptown corridors, the city beach, and improvements to our central parks are all projects we're anticipating will make a significant impact of quality of life, job creation and retention, and attracting more people to our city. These are factors I considered when developing our proposal. Most organizations will look at employee costs as their largest expense rather than their largest investment. This budget maintains and supports an active workforce through competitive pay, succession planning, and provides other promotional opportunities as compared to other regional employers. By taking the approach to invest in our workforce, the city of Plattsburgh is able to maintain a level of service quality, increase infrastructure improvements and maintenance, and ensure a responsive government. By taking an investment mentality, we're able to attract and retain talent that may otherwise look for employment elsewhere. As we've seen throughout our region, workforce development and retention is an increasing cost for all employers. Competitive wages, expanded work from home opportunities, increased expenses in childcare, transportation, and housing are all contributing to the threat the city faces in attracting and retaining talent in our workforce. It's critical to ensure that the city of Plattsburgh maintains workforce competitiveness and attractiveness, not only to address workforce shortages, but to create and fulfill succession pipeline for retiring staff. With the successful renegotiating of our largest collective bargaining unit, which was out of contract since 2017, the majority of the city's overall projected 2022 increased expenses are due to the increased payrolls. This proposed budget includes raises in hourly rates for the city's largest collective bargaining unit, as well as a modest 2% cost of living increase for the majority of our department heads. For specific key roles and functions in the city, this proposed budget also increases labor staffing along with more technical, high-level roles that we're looking to leverage to help propel infrastructure development and maintenance. The original departmental requests represented an overall expense increase of 10.7% over 2021. With all things being equal, this initial request would have required a tax rate of 12.85%. That's an increase of 1.48% over 21 and would have represented $1.79 million increase to the tax levy. This increase would have well exceeded the state mandated tax cap. I'm not going to read through the departmental summaries. I will let you all do that yourselves. Over the last 2 years, our economy has seen a sharp increase in the cost of doing business. Increases in material expense, fuel prices, employee costs, and service costs have on average risen to never before seen levels. Inflationary measures for the second quarter of 2021 was on average at 5%. In 2020, the average price of a gallon of diesel fuel was $2.79. In 2022, that has risen to $3.41, or by 62 cents. The impact of the global pandemic and government shutdowns have forced residents to stay in place. With that increased requirement to stay home came a marked increase in DIY projects. Material commodities, specifically lumber, traded at an all-time high of $1,700 in the peak of summer of 2021. That's this summer. And even as lumber markets even out in late 2021, lumber commodities still trade $200 higher during the same time last year. This proposed budget includes funding for maintaining parks, capital investments at the beach and the rec center, ensuring operational stability, increased staffing, preparing for infrastructure investment, projects in partnership with the town of Plattsburgh, and the execution of the comprehensive and Harborside master plan. Considering all of these factors, this budget maintains a 0% increase to the tax rate, a 1.9% increase in expenses over 2021, a 6.17% increase in revenues over 2021. This proposed budget stays well below the state mandated tax cap, and an estimated 2022 year-end general fund unassigned unappropriate fund balance of just over $4 million, which represents 16.57% of general fund expenses. Now, as I wrap up, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the City of Plattsburgh department heads. Richard Marks responded to about 100 emails a day. I've come to find out that every single manager of our city has worked diligently and is abundantly dedicated to the betterment of our community. They are experts in their fields, and at every turn, they have gone above and beyond for our residents and their staff. I'd also like to thank this council. This year, they have shown time and time again their interest in stepping up to address their citizens' concerns. They've expended resources to maintain services, invested in our parks and green space, and have led the charge to take the first steps in investing in the abundance of our waterfront resources. This proposed budget is available via the City of Plattsburgh website, and it's been a pleasure working on behalf of the City of Plattsburgh taxpayer to deliver this balanced budget that I feel that we can all be proud of. Thank you. With that, I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session. Regarding pending litigation, Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're now in executive session.
So the council has in January. Right? Richard, they have one in January. January 14th.
To either the very budget or adopt the revised.
Wait, so what is next? Just so that-
Okay.
That's nice. They have, like Richard just says, they have until January 14th to adopt.
Okay.
They have revised, 14.
I wanted to say was take a look at the majority of what you're
To adopt it or revise it. So they could do it anytime between now.
And he sent an email to the
talking about.
treasurer.
Your stuff.
He didn't send the link to it, and I couldn't find it on the website. He sent it.
It wasn't hacked. It's because he just released it. I'll put it on when I go back to my office.
Oh, okay, that's why I couldn't find it.
Put it before you released it.
No wonder. Yeah, I was trying to find it. Yeah. I know there's some websites where things are so complex, you just can't find them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last year. The budget is being moved to 0%
And
increase in
really,
tax
didn't
rate.
work out at all.
And 1.9% increase in general fund.
They've only got 160.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tax rate.
Think about a lot of that. And yeah, this is something. Okay. It's also not 200 people. Still pay, right? Yeah, so
Excuse me. Nothing like standing. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. We're just gonna try to have a grab.
Well, I got it.
Intro, formal intro, that's a proposal.
Yeah.
And then that's the public hearing. They have to pass, they have to approve, and the public hearing. And so they now approved a joint public hearing on October 20. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Traditional.
Or, you know, getting to the end.
Yeah, we introduced the local law to officially annex parcels. These are the ones that I think Reed originally proposed annex. I figure we'll be catching him afterwards.
I certainly am. Although actually, not so much about the budget message. I think I've digested it sufficiently. But about something else. Not about the annexation issue either. Yeah, it's going to mention it. Not like that.
Yeah. When I go back over there. I have to do it on the website.
And is it like usually it's like an easy link, right? So you can just put a link like, hey, we want to see the whole thing.
It'll be a PDF.
So great.
I don't know how easy it'll be because I'm putting it on there.
No, normally when I talked about it 2 weeks ago, but that's.
Yeah.
It's from the park. Let's get somebody into the track. Historical markers. How long do you think they'll be? No, how would I know
You're like supposed to be East Power.
that? I know, but I didn't even know they did it, so I don't know.
You know,
They don't tell me about that.
you're the power at City Hall. You're the mayor's aide. You know all, you do all.
I don't have any idea. What did they say? I thought we were gonna be on.
What do you think I emailed you and not the mayor?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Jen.
I keep going.
How's it going otherwise?
After this, but it is past at 9:15. Football.
I'm gonna get home tomorrow first, I get everything I just.
I would
Not an option for me.
Yeah, we're off Monday.
Although I never go to bed.
I agree. We don't take a holiday.
When I went to the insurance company meeting.
Well, it's kind of cool because usually we're, we have in-person fundraising, and we normally do fundraising around our time. So that's why we, didn't take it as a holiday. What they have decided is that, instead of
No worries.
worrying
We'll just-
about
we'll just
Columbus
show
Day
them
and
on
Indigenous
us.
Peoples, they would like switch it. And we would get like Christmas Eve off, or
Okay.
something like that. Instead.
Oh, that's
like, I'll go with that.
Yeah, I know that, yeah. Now, what do you go in, are you in the morning or are you doing evening? What is your shift? Like, do you go?
It's normal.
8 to 5 or 8 to 4?
8 till whenever.
Well, that's what I mean, because you got a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, last night it was. I got in about 7:45 in the morning and I left about 8 o'clock at night. This week is weird. There are a lot of people doing evening Zoom meetings that I've been trying to catch.
Oh.
Which is particularly tricky when more than one is happening at the same time.
That's right.
So like, what did that just say? Wait a minute, better questions, take notes on that one.
Yeah. Probably we should be winding down on all this, but.
No, it doesn't entirely surprise me. If you look at the history of pandemics and stuff, they linger.
This would be going.
Mm,
It has to go away.
No. Makes you wonder with boosters and a possible pill and. Who knows? I'm not a scientist. I just repeat what they tell me. I hope it's accurate.
Yeah, right. And take all this parking that's split up. Now, once we all go back over next to each other, I have to go string everything underneath it.
You have to do it?
Yeah, well, I have nobody else to do it.
It's teasing Jamie's head. I was used to sitting at that desk.
Yeah. I'm using every table I can find. And poor Jamie's off, that he's not really on the camera, but I can't make it any different.
Well, and Mike and Elizabeth aren't really the three of them aren't really the 6 feet apart.
They're as close as I can get to 6 feet.
Yeah. Unless you find another table and kind of curve it even more.
Well, but then my mic's won't reach.
Actually, that does probably give JD more latitude to wear the sweatshirts and the Lakers
Yeah.
stuff. But that's what the box might be.
That's
So I'm
right.
sure he's okay with that.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, no.
She was doing her laptop.
I'm almost thinking too, if I just find one I know, I'll leave.
And they'll walk in, yes. Murphy walk.
Just like what I said to my girlfriend last Friday at afternoon, after I had been making inquiries to the mayor's office all morning about the police assessment, right?
Yeah.
I said to her, okay, I'm getting into the shower right now to clean myself up, before I go into work. How much money would you like to bet me that the mayor's office calls me in the 15 minutes that it'll take me to shower? Yep. 3 minutes after I got into the shower, that's when they called.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, we've been in some press conferences where, you know, talking to them and doing one-on-one, and you get back to your studio and they release this press release and you look at it and it's like, you couldn't say anything while we were over there 10 minutes ago.
I'm sleeping, man.
Yeah, it's been a long week.
I think I did 40 hours this week on like Tuesday.
I thought this week it's been like 8 in the morning till 8 at night. I think Samantha over there, the mayor's office over there is getting better. She used to send out
She is.
emails and press conferences like an hour beforehand. And
Not
it's
even,
like,
not even an hour, like half an hour,
Yeah,
45
and it's
minutes,
like, there's no way I can get there.
Everyone we can send.
Yeah, and there's no way I can make it with
Spread
that
it 5
time.
minutes.
Unless, of course, it's virtual.
I would do that.
No, I know. I know that. No, that's just,
I'm trying to give you at least 2 hours.
No.
She just doesn't send you the ferry ticket.
Right.
When they send you a ferry ticket at the mayor's office over there?
No,
No? They do?
no,
I do.
we use some of our stations that pay cash
Oh.
to buy, you know, bulk.
Yeah. Oh, I guess let me go home before they go back to the station.
Yeah.
I'm going over to
You don't have to do
I'm
a
so
deal or
sorry.
anything for tonight.
Yeah, I do, but I'm not live, so.
Came in early to get the packages done at 7 this morning, so, because I had to copy her and ties up Sylvia's office.
Ooh. I just like butternut squash.
Yeah.
Well, butternut squash is easy when you just, you know, scoop out the center, pour maple syrup in the center. Yeah, and then just bake it, and that's all you have to do, maybe a little bit of butter. That's it.
I'm actually viciously hungry right now. I'm so.
Acorn squash is that way too.
I
Just,
love
you know,
squash,
maple syrup.
but
Maple syrup is wonderful on life.
opening them drives me bonkers.
Oh, no.
It is so hard to cut squash. It's so hard.
I have good knives.
No, I don't. I terrible knives. I do like the fork. I feel like my sword is everything that's just soft. I can do like steak and mashed potatoes with like a little bit of gravy and maybe some like spinach on the side.
97.9.
Longhorn.
What'd you say?
Longhorn. The first job I had was in my 20s. Well, I, you know, it's like, he's nice, I went out and bought a really expensive set of cutting knives, and I still have them. So, yeah.
I would like one of those nice block sets, and it's not like so much money, but they're like, oh, good enough, but they're done, I need to get like a sharpener, I think.
Yeah, well, you still need sharpener and stuff, but yeah, this is a really nice set. To last, I have.
I love that you can get like fun colored ones. It's not like that one that's like, it goes from like a green to a blue to a purple, and then where you look, it's so pretty. Do I need it? No, but is it cool? Yes.
But is it sharp?
I want all new stuff. I want a burrito for the pepper. They have the best burritos.
She's gone from steaks to burritos. Are you gonna get a steak burrito filled with potatoes and spinach?
Or a big old plate of penny on
Well, the first one's out.
This is a good sign. That's encouraging.
I was excused.
How is South Carolina?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know why I came back.
Where'd you go in South Carolina?
I went to, well, first, beach, and then I went down to see my brother who lives outside of Charleston.
I love Charleston.
And he and I went further south to Hunting Island. Beaufort. And close to Georgia.
Oh, that's awesome. So a vacation well spent.
Oh, my Lord.
Couldn't do that over there.
Yes, please do. Sunday afternoon would be better.
Sunday
Like 1:30, 2:30. Oh, thank you. Yes, sir.
All right, motion to come out of executive session. Counselor Gibbs, second. Counselor Canales, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to take a motion to, thank you, Counselor Kelly. Counselor Kelly needs to be excused. I'd like to take a motion to introduce an item under Rule 4. Motion by Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Canales, or waive Rule 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd like to now introduce a resolution in accordance with the request thereof. The common council approves a payment to Kathy Livingston in the amount of $25,000 in full. Resolution of the litigation entitled Kathy Livingston v. versus City of Plattsburgh, index number 2019-1058. And further authorizes the mayor and corporation council to execute any other documents deemed necessary by corporation council in furtherance of this resolution. Motion by Counselor Bob, second by Counselor Gibbs. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Canales?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Talon?
Yes.
Counselor Bob?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Carried. No new business to come before this council. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn. Counselor Gibbs, second by Counselor Bob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're now adjourned. Thank you. Jump over.
Yeah.
Hold tight there.
Yeah, I certainly can. Although I can tell you.